This is the National News Desk, America's News Now, and it is the final stretch before Election Day. We're keeping an eye on 4 high-profile races in states where polls are tightening and candidates could not be further apart on some of the biggest issues. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is Monday, November 3rd, and tomorrow voters will pick a new governor in New Jersey, where the polls are neck and neck right now. In Virginia, it depends on turnout for Election Day tomorrow, as the polls show the race for governor as well as for state attorney general right now are still within the margin of error. Another big race everyone's going to be watching is for the next mayor of America's largest city. That's New York City, with 3 choices that could not be more different. Let's get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with the very latest for us right now. I know you've been tracking the final campaign stops and each of these highly watched challenges, Mark.
Absolutely. And already, Jan, this morning we've seen some candidates out doing press conferences, trying to drum up support and get voters to the polls as Election Day now just 24 hours away. We are watching this closely with some key races to watch right here. The Virginia governor's race, New Jersey governor, and the other one, New York City mayor's race. That one has been in the headlines, of course, the past several weeks and months, with the Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani, independent Andrew Cuomo, and Republican Curtis Sliwa all in it for this seat there, the mayor's seat. Here's where things stand. The latest poll, Real Clear polling, indicates Mamdani still ahead 45% to 31 and 17. Mamdani has been in this position the whole run, so it would really need to essentially be a miracle to flip this. Tomorrow, we'll watch that closely. Meantime, in Virginia, some other hotly contested races. This one for governor. Democrat Abigail Spanberger going up against Republican Winsome Earle-Sears. Here's where things stand. Again, Real Clear polling, 52% to 43. Earle-Sears is going to need a big turnout tomorrow for Republicans. The in-person voting will be key for her if she wants to win this thing. Also watching the state's attorney general race, where things are a little more interesting there after the texting scandal involving the Democrat, after text messages written by Jay Jones surfaced back in 2022 calling for the death of a political rival's family. This race is close. The Republican over the Democrat by 1 or 2 percentage points, certainly within the margin of error. Watching that closely as well. Up to New Jersey now, the governor's seat up for grabs tomorrow between Republican Jack Ciattarelli and Democrat Mikey Sherrill. This is where things stand there. The Democrat 48, close to 49%, to the Republican of 45%. Some polls say the Republican could overtake the Democrat in this race. Polling is just a snapshot. 100,000 or so people, different polls have different numbers. Election Day will be the true tell. We'll watch this very closely for you tomorrow right here on the National News Desk, and stay up to date with the latest breaking news on our website anytime at thenationaldesk.com.
President Trump looking to energize Americans in the lead up to Election Day. The president is tapping his political war chest to provide New Jersey and Virginia $1 million each to help elect Republican candidates Jack Ciattarelli and Winsome Earle-Sears. The president also weighing in on the New York City mayoral race.
Zohran Mamdani, 34-year-old Democratic socialist. He's the
communist, not socialist, communist. He's far worse than a socialist.
Some people have compared him to a left-wing version of you, charismatic, breaking the old rules. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I'm a much better-looking person than him, right?
But what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York, because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there. So I don't know that he's won, and I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country.
This all comes as the Democratic Party is losing support from its base. A new Pew poll found 67% say they are frustrated with the Democratic Party. Meantime, 69% of Republicans say their party makes them feel hopeful.
As we begin a new...
And voters still cast their ballots, as we know, with their wallets and their purses in nearly every poll. The economy, still the most important issue for voters across all demographics. And still some key races can be determined not by necessarily who you're voting for, but possibly about who you're voting against. Joining us to discuss some key races, CEO of J. Wallen Opinion Research, Justin Wallen. Great to see you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Jen. Great to see you.
You know, this might be the case in New York City. Heavily Democratic jurisdiction. The majority of voters do not appear to like either Democrat on that ticket. We're talking about a socialist. The other is a Democrat running as an independent because he lost the primary to the socialist. Are we going to see the largest city in America, Justin, run by a socialist Democrat?
The short answer to that is, unless the polls are wildly wrong, yes. New York City is going to be governed by an openly socialist and, to all intents and purposes, anti-Israel mayoral candidate. And it's fascinating because, yes, it's a sea of imperfect candidates. By all accounts, New Yorkers are not thrilled with their set of choices, but they're going to make a choice. And I think the key message here for the Democratic Party is, are voters making a choice about going far left, or are they making a choice about affordability? And I suspect I know it's the first one. Mamdani's message was excellent. New York just costs too much to live in, and New Yorkers resonate with that, except for the most wealthy.
Right, but the way he thinks he's going to make it more affordable, as a capitalist society, everyone knows nothing is free. There's no free lunch. There's no free rides. There's no allowing the government to have price controls at grocery stores, price controls on rent. Those, as we know, historically, will make everything. That actually increases inflation, as we know.
Well, I think the Democratic Party and New Yorkers in general, and Mamdani actually, need to look very closely at the success rate of really hard left progressive candidates who have won in deeply blue spaces. Look at San Francisco and Los Angeles district attorneys. Highly progressive policies that were enacted failed miserably, and they were ejected from their seats and replaced by much more right-leaning candidates. So in practice, this is going to be very interesting to see play out. Even in the deepest blue of blue, I don't think it's going to be palatable.
Right, and we know these races obviously serve as a referendum, for the party that's not at the White House. So the Democratic Party, which seems to still be searching for some cohesion and messaging. So do they need to win by a large margin in places like Virginia and New Jersey, those two closely watched races?
Yeah, they really do. I mean, in these off-cycle elections, as you know, the tide tends to go against the party that's in power. And if the Democratic Party really is accurate that there's a swell of discontent at the head of the United States with the Trump administration, then these races are going to be won by wide margins. And that's really the takeaway. Are these races that close? That probably shouldn't be if the messaging of the Democratic Party is correct. And the reality is they're just not, by all the polls, they're just not far and away. Most of them are within the margin of error.
That's exactly right. How do you see the governor's race playing out there with Jack Ciattarelli and Democrat Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey?
Well, that's a wonderful example of it. New Jersey is an interesting place because it's reliably blues, reliably Democratic for the presidency. But governors go back and forth. And in this case, it's too close to tell. There's absolutely no way to tell who's going to come out on top. And there should be a margin. If New Jersey is reflective of America's tempo, which in some ways it is because it goes back and forth, I think it's a good barometer. Then if the Democratic message is correct, that Americans are fed up with the administration's policies and really looking for an out, then the margin here really should be well outside the margin of error in favor of the Democratic candidate, and it's not.
We had some polls that were just wildly off during last year's election cycle. Is there a reason why we're seeing so much discrepancy, do you think, in polling these days?
Yes, that's a long conversation. But the key here for poll watchers is to look at averages because that weeds out the outliers. There are a lot of outliers, and that's a challenge. There are challenges with methodology. The key issues with my particular world are finding people who are willing to talk. And if you do it correctly, then it actually comes back. The funny thing about correct polls is most of those are internal. And a lot of the public polling, which we see and we go by as barometers, those actually have to deal with price restrictions.
Interesting.
So,
you mean, when you say internal polls, you mean the candidates conducting their own polls. Those tend to be very accurate. I agree with you on that. Now, there's already been plenty of early voting. So how important is today? What does a big turnout at the polls mean for both parties? Who's likely to benefit?
In this case, if we have a big turnout, I think Republicans are going to benefit because the mantra is that frustration and anger drives turnout. And if this is the case, as it typically is in a midterm, then the opposing party is going to prevail because of that. I don't think that's the dynamic today. I think if we see a higher turnout, it's going to benefit Republicans. But I could very well be wrong. But by all intents and purposes, the way this is panning out, I think that Republicans are actually, even if they lose in races, I think they're positioned pretty doggone well. We're not seeing this enormous, widespread disaffection that we're apparently supposed to see if we're going to believe the Democratic pundits.
That's so true. CEO of J. Wallen Opinion Research, Justin Wallen. Great to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Great to see you.
The elections today will have a big impact on policing, the crime crackdown, and how the law is enforced as some local jurisdictions continue the battle against the crime crisis, criminal illegal aliens, and soft on crime policies. From New Jersey to Virginia and New York City, it's a day that's going to have far-reaching consequences for all law enforcement. Joining us now to discuss is retired FBI Special Agent in Charge and former Superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, Jody Weeks. Good morning to you, sir. A critical day for the largest city in the country, New York City, nearly 9 million folks there. And if you look at the polls, Zohran Mamdani obviously in the lead. What impact will this have on law and order? What concerns you most?
Yeah, Jan, great to see you. Whenever there's an election, there's going to be change. You can just expect that. Cops don't like change. It creates unknown. Unknown then is replaced with rumors and conspiracy theories, but that's going to normally happen. The other thing that you can always count on, usually, a new mayor, a new police chief. Trust me, I know how that can happen. But talking about Mamdani, let's look at this. I'm concerned about a couple things. Number one, I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and a lot of the guys and gals from New York City were saying that if he gets elected, there's going to be mass retirements, mass resignations. I don't know if that was really talk around a coffee table or not. Leaving your job is a big deal, but here's what I am very concerned about. If the police do not believe they are backed and supported, they're going to have a slowdown. They will only respond to radio calls. And why would they do that? For protection. You can't claim that I'm racially profiling anybody or going after this group or that group if I'm just answering the radio. I'm just responding to victims. A couple of my friends on the left are deeply concerned that the Trump administration, through the DOJ, is going to institute a DOJ-sponsored patterns and practice investigation. I don't think that'll happen. Republicans don't normally go that route. But if that were to happen, that could cost New York City millions and millions of dollars if they got into a consent decree. I don't think that will happen, though, with this administration.
Well, the president has said he's going to withhold funds to New York City if Mamdani is elected. So we're talking about a guy who wants to give out free everything, but it's got to come from somewhere. So the thought is that he's going to have to start slashing the budget, and that could begin with law enforcement if he is elected. Can he unilaterally defund police? Can he dismantle police there in the city?
Jan, not really. He may want to do that, but it's really highly unlikely. And I say that because of just the power structure in New York City. You're going to have to convince 26 councilmen that that's a good thing to do. You're going to have to convince the state, the federal government, and the unions have ironclad contracts. But what he could do is if officers leave, either through retirement or resignations, he could just let them go out by attrition and not replace them. And if you're trying to save money, I know NYPD has massive overtime, so he could put caps on that. But NYPD does not have to worry about them being dismantled by this mayor.
In New Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli seeming to be getting ahead of Mikey Sherrill in some polls. What are the primary differences between these two candidates when it comes to law enforcement?
Yeah, it's a little bit more subtle. The big issue, there's two big issues, immigration and then the qualified immunity for police officers. Sherrill has said she doesn't want much cooperation between the locals and the ICE officers. She wants to build community trust, and she thinks that would hurt it. Ciattarelli, he is all in on getting rid of sanctuary city status. He wants to mandate ICE and local cooperation, and if an agency in New Jersey doesn't go along with it, he's going to cut their funds. The other issue is a little more subtle. It's kind of a gray area with Sherrill because she has voted against qualified immunity for police officers in the past. She's kind of backed off that. Now, good news for the cops, Jack is all in for qualified immunity. So that's the primary differences I see in New Jersey.
And very quickly, too, it was widely circulated a few weeks back. Mikey Sherrill wasn't able to walk with her graduating class at the U.S. Naval Academy, the graduation, because of a cheating scandal there. Will that hurt her with police officers? Will that hurt her with law enforcement?
It should hurt her with everybody, Jan. I mean, I think we should expect honesty in our politicians. We should demand it. Now, she wasn't found guilty of cheating, but she did not report it. So that's a big deal of the Service Academy, not to report wrongdoing. So as you might guess, Jack has hit her up really hard, trying to impugn her integrity and attack her credibility.
Yeah, and sometimes not reporting it is just as bad, right? You're just as guilty by not blowing the whistle on something you know all about. Retired FBI Special Agent in Charge and former Superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, Jody Weiss. Great to see you, sir. Happy Election Day.
You too, Jan. Take care.
You too. It is Election Day, and we are watching as the polls open nationwide. The most high-profile races taking place in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jan Jeffcoat. It is November 4th. It's Election Day. Do not forget to vote. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk with the latest for us right now. And, you know, Mark, the candidates making their final campaign stops last night. They're really hoping to get their message to voters before they head to the polls today. For those who have not already cast their ballot.
And most of these people, let's be honest, have probably made up their mind. They're waiting until Election Day, Jan. And we are here, Election Day across the country for many states, of course, as we wake up this morning watching some of these high-stakes races playing out across the country, the different locations. The candidates were out in full force in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City. Let's take a live look over Capitol Hill here behind me this morning. They're making their last-minute pitches to voters, and let's start for you this morning here in New York City, where Democrat Socialist Zohran Mamdani is facing off against Republican Curtis Sliwa and Independent Andrew Cuomo. All three men spent yesterday canvassing the city. They are trying to secure every vote possible. Meantime, here in Virginia, you have the races the nation are watching. The first one, the race for governor between Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat, and Republican Winsome Earle-Sears. She's looking to keep Virginia's governor's office red. You'll also hear about the state's attorney general race. That's up for grabs, too, as Republican Jason Miyares looks to keep his seat against the challenger, Jay Jones. The Democrat, Jay Jones, looking to overcome his texting scandal that blew up really a few weeks ago, where his private text messages became public, where he called for the death of a former political rival's family. They were made public, so he's been challenging that. Finally, this morning in New Jersey, the other big race we're watching for you. Take a live look over Ocean City here behind me, the sun coming up there. Republican Jack Ciattarelli hoping to take down Democrat Mikey Sherrill in what's anticipated to be a very close race. They are within the margin of error in all the polls we have seen leading up to today. Republicans are getting some last-minute support from the White House. In the past 24 hours, President Trump spent some time virtually campaigning on behalf of New Jersey and Virginia's Republican candidates. He's hoping to get some momentum behind the Republicans to push them over the line. We're going to watch the very latest for you this morning as polls start to open in different locations. For updates throughout the day and tonight, visit our website anytime at thenationaldesk.com.
All right. A new report out this morning shows there could be major financial fallout and a mass exodus from New York City if Mamdani gets elected. According to a survey conducted by JL Partners, 9% of New Yorkers said they would definitely move out. Another 25%, or 2.12 million, said they would consider leaving. At the same time, top business leaders are warning of the financial consequences if Mamdani gets into office and enacts his radical socialist policies. Yesterday, billionaire Elon Musk officially endorsed independent candidate Andrew Cuomo just days after slamming Mamdani's policies on the Joe Rogan podcast.
I mean, you got to hand it to him. Like he can light up a stage, but he has just been a swindler his entire life. If Mamdani's policies are put into place, especially at scale, it would be a catastrophic decline in living standards, not just for the rich, but for everyone, as has been the case with every socialist experiment.
And this morning, watchdog groups are also raising concerns about the dire social impacts Mamdani could make with his policies. In a new report, the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy stated he has repeatedly declined to condemn the slogan, "Globalize the Intifada," ignoring the fact that the word intifada is synonymous with incitement to kill Jews. Mamdani's rise is the story of how radical anti-Zionism has been repackaged as socialist, populist, progressive politics, and how this ideology now threatens to erode the sense of security for New York's Jewish community.